Democrats melt down over redistricting. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. The redistricting war is on, and Trump and Republicans are winning bigly, as the president would say. The Supreme Court's decision on the Voting Rights Act, as we know, has the South rapidly redistricting, removing the very anti-American race-based gerrymander that's been used for decades on a number of seats. And the most recent retaliation to all of this, what started in Texas from Democrats, collapsed today in Virginia. The state Supreme Court overturning a Democrat referendum that was set to add 4 more blue seats in Congress. The court saying Democrats did not play by the rules, calling out a scammed process. The majority writing the constitutional violation in Virginia incurably taints the resulting referendum vote and nullifies its legal efficacy. Now, don't forget, Virginia Democrats worded that referendum by literally telling their voters to vote yes to this to adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections, That was the description that they used as they attempted to turn a pretty evenly split purple state into a deep blue 11-to-1 Democrat-Republican split in Congress. Tonight, plenty of fury over the Virginia Supreme Court's decision. Take a look.
The Virginia State Supreme Court struck down the congressional redistricting approved by Virginia voters 17 days ago. It is a big blow to democracy.
They're saying that might is right. We're going to rule no matter what. And we're going to use race as one of the ways that we're going to whip everybody in line.
This is the product of a 60-plus year plan to bring this country into Jim Crow 2.0, an era where they've traded in the hoods for suits and ties.
Against the will of the majority of voters, against not 1 but 2 legislative votes, the Supreme Court threw out the redistricting effort.
Yeah, a lot of anger. Most of it is ridiculous. You're going to see a lot more through the weekend. Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries writing the decision by the Virginia Supreme Court to overturn the will of more than 3 million voters will not stand. We are exploring all options to overturn this shocking decision. Well, their only option is to pack the Virginia Supreme Court. There's nowhere else to appeal to. The rage makes sense. They spent nearly $100 million trying to pull this off, and they still scammed the system, and they still lost. Had this been done appropriately, had the referendum been put together appropriately, had the question not been a spectacular and ridiculous gaslight, it would have failed that night. This thing barely eked across the finish line. 52-48 was the vote on that referendum, and they had to cheat to get 52. But just for fun, here's how Democrats sounded after it passed just a couple weeks ago.
If you try to rig the system, we fight back. If you try to take power from voters, we will take it right back. I meant it when I said Virginia will finish the fight, and yesterday we did.
When they go low, we're going to go down there and kick their.
Our message to Florida Republicans is F around and find out.
How much money are you guys willing to spend on Virginia? Now this is going to go to a ballot referendum in April, could have a huge impact on the midterms. How much money are you guys willing to put in to get this ballot initiative through?
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes. And it took $100 million to lose. Widening out, redistricting is happening all over the South. After the Supreme Court's Voting Rights Act decision, it is looking like a bloodbath for Democrats as this process moves along. Outlined here by CNN.
Indiana, Alabama, and South Carolina may soon pass their own last-minute maps. So here's where that leaves the redistricting wars nationwide right now. Republicans have targeted 14 extra seats. Democrats could pick up 6. Theoretically, it would be an 8-seat GOP advantage.
And they're going to add a few more of those in yellow there, so it could be closer to maybe 14-seat advantage. And remember, this is not something Republicans started. Take a look at the Northeast. We'll talk about that in a second. In Tennessee, though, the sole blue district is gone. Memphis, represented by Steve Cohen. And as Democrats fume over race and the loss of these majority black districts, the ultimate irony in all of this is that Steve Cohen is going to be replaced, likely, by this Republican woman. So as a screaming racism, it's going to be a white guy gone, and you're going to see her in a seat in Tennessee, in the last seat that is now going to be red. That's Charlotte Bergman. That's who's going to get the job. But you know they're going to scream and cry regardless. It's not going to change anything. Gavin Newsom says MAGA has rigged the system. Stacey Abrams, as you would expect, is furious as well.
What we have to understand is that there are no longer blue states and red states. There are authoritarian states and democracy states. There are states that do not believe in the right of the people to have a say, who want to aggregate power and foment corruption. And there are states that want to guarantee that in this country, we have free and fair elections.
Democracy states like Virginia trying to take a, you know, like a 53-47 state and turn it into 11 blue seats and what, 1 red seat? Yeah. Just remember that this is a map, a congressional map of New England. Isn't that something? Tens of millions of Republicans live here and have had 0 representation in Congress for years. So again, they act like Republicans started this war. No, they've been way better at this for a very long time. But removing that Memphis seat, of course, has Democrats seeing red. There was absolute chaos on the floor of the Tennessee House on Thursday as the decision was made. You can hear some of the sound there. State Rep Justin Pearson, a loudmouth perpetual victim and an activist in Tennessee, really wanted Steve Cohen's seat, was going to primary him for that seat. Well, that seat's now going to be gone, and his political career is in big trouble, and he was furious on Thursday, helping one of his protester buddies walk out of the chamber after being arrested and taking all his frustration out on the people that he hates the most, cops.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Stupid mother.
I think the Washington Examiner tonight called him a racial justice cosplayer. That's the perfect description for him. A look at that young man before he figured out that playing the victim and tethering his entire identity to the racial justice agenda was a better lane. A nice before and after here. The Democrat Party's race grift capturing another young black man. Take a look.
Justin J. Pearson, and I'm running for president of PSG. There are a few reasons that we're running this campaign this year. One has to do with representation. How can we represent all voices in a conversation? I wanted to do this by partnering with organizations from the Boone Democrats to the Boone Republicans.
You'll take the only majority black district from us, but I want you to know, and I want my nephew, sons, and the future to know, no matter what you do, no matter how much you try and break us and make us bend and make us quit, we will still be here.
Another actor. So many actors in the political game. Former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli joins us now. The last time we talked to Ken, he predicted the Virginia gerrymandering ballot referendum would be overturned. Looks like you were right, Ken. Explain to us exactly what tricks they tried to pull here that the Supreme Court said, nah, this is not going to happen.
So this was a state constitutional issue, and like a lot of states, Virginia requires as a condition of amending its state constitution that the General Assembly has to pass a proposed amendment 2 different times, once in front of an election of the General Assembly and once by the new General Assembly after that intervening election. Well, that was the central issue in the case today, decided today, as I had predicted, as you know, Rob. And last year in 2025, we had an election. We have our elections in Virginia in the odd years. That's when Spanberger was elected governor, campaigning that she was against gerrymandering, apparently before she was for it. And on Halloween, very appropriate, the General Assembly passed a redistricting referendum, the gerrymandering referendum that we've been talking about and that we saw the vote on April 21st. But the voting had begun 6 weeks before on September 19th, And yet they wanted to count that election as the intervening election. The Supreme Court said no. Anytime voters are voting in an election is the intervening election. And by the way, it was the Democrats that gave us this 45-day election, not Republicans. And so it turns out the Democrats got hoisted on their own petard here, and the Virginia Supreme Court threw out the referendum because it had been put on the ballot in a brazenly unconstitutional fashion.
Yeah, and the question too was just outrageous, and we've talked about that in the monologue. They want to take this to the United States Supreme Court. Is there any way that's even possible?
No. In every state, some of these people need to retake their civics classes, including the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries. There is no appeal from the Supreme Court of Virginia on the Constitution of Virginia. It is the final authority on the Virginia Constitution, just as the U.S. Supreme Court is the final authority on the federal Constitution. That's not new. Yeah. That dates back, to the beginning of the country. So anybody in elected office who doesn't know that really probably isn't qualified on a knowledge basis to hold their position.
They're probably just trying to find some way to appease, their voters, their supporters after dumping, I think, what, $98 million. I'm fighting. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't just waste $98 million in Virginia. We have another plan, yeah. Ken, good to see you. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you, especially for...
All right. That's right. Okay. Mike Hurst joins us now, RNC General Counsel. They had the big win. Amy Robbins, host of the Amy Robbins Show. Good to have you both on a Friday night. Mike, RNC brought that lawsuit in Virginia. Great job. Your reaction?
Thank you. Yes, we're very excited about the outcome. We knew we were right in the law. Like, as Ken said, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia has a 4-step process. The Democrats threw that out. Now they're claiming to be shocked, and this is unprecedented. No, this is simply following the law. This is not something that any American should be shocked by. This is what we expect our elected officials to do: follow the Constitution and follow the law. As simple as that.
Yeah. Amy, there was a great tweet that was put out by Hans Monkey, who we have on the show very often here. Take a look at this. He kind of explains what they did. He says, I don't think people outside politics understand how insane what they did was. They redrew the map so that 5 congressional districts effectively originated in Fairfax, which is a city packed with left-wing government workers, and then they stretch all across out through the state. This is classic Democrat gerrymandering for a number of different reasons. It looked terrible. And then you had the rules that were broken. You had the way they asked the question to protect democracy. You must vote yes for this, or it's just outrageous in every sense.
Yeah, this was a major blow to Democrats, but honestly, Rob, the Democrats have nobody to blame but themselves. They tried to scheme their way into gaining 4 more House seats, and they tried to rush it through, and in the process, they broke this procedure. And believe it or not, people don't even understand that this is not the Virginia Supreme Court is not some partisan Republican court that's just running wild. There are actually still judges out there that don't want to be activist judges. They simply wanted to uphold the Constitution of Virginia, and that is exactly what they did. So the Democrats are just being sore losers, and at this point, they're really their own worst enemy.
Yeah, they certainly are. I want to play, Mike, Congressman Benny Thompson from nearby Mississippi. Take a listen to this.
This is equivalent to a second Civil War. We're going to have to get our act together. As everybody's saying, we're going to have to resist with every fiber in our body. We're going to have to take this system on at every election.
A lot of fury, Mike. I mean, there's so many states in the South all there together that are going to see a big change in their congressional districts, and there's a lot of anger. I don't know if his seat particularly might be out, but so many of his colleagues, like Steve Cohen in some of these places, are going to lose their jobs.
Well, in addition to being the general counsel of the RNC, I'm also the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. So unfortunately, I know Benny Thompson all too well. He's been in that seat for over 30 years. He's done nothing for the 2nd Congressional District. And only the Democrats would compare a ruling by the United States Supreme Court that goes back to the fidelity and the original language of the Constitution and federal law and compare that to something that was as horrific as slavery and the Civil War. This is just ridiculous.
It certainly is. Got to leave it there. Mike Hurst, Amy Robbins, good to have you both. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Up here after the break, the U.S. strikes 2 Iranian-flagged ships trying to violate the president's blockade. The ceasefire still remains. We're going to talk about this very, very tough deal that Trump is trying to get Iran to sign. Up next with a retired Navy SEAL. Plus later in News from the Left, federally regulated ABC fighting the FCC over giving equal time to Republicans. ABC does not want to do this. Coming up.
A Social Security update. Millions collect Social Security, but 70% of Americans don't get their full benefits. Now, a new report shows how to boost your Social Security by as much as $188,000. Author Matthew Allen reveals 5 key strategies in a new report. Newsmax calls it the best guide for retirees. Everyone needs this free Social Security report. Act today to get your full benefits.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
Ooh, that new Cologuard Plus test. 10 out of 10.
Now I detect 95% of colon cancers, similar to colonoscopy.
Somebody's been working on himself. Girl, those blue arms say I got you. The square jaw says trust me.
And the free return label says I'm going places.
The Cologuard Plus test. Non-invasive, no prep, and better than ever. For people 45 plus at average risk, it's the box that checks all the boxes for screening. False positive and negative results may occur, not for those at high risk. Ask your provider or request Cologuard Plus online.
Among those with us this afternoon are a number of the angel moms who saw their precious children stolen from them by the open border policies of the radical left. 25 million people came into our country. Many of them were criminals. Many of them were murderers. They allowed them in with their open border policy of stupidity. We have no people come in during the last 11 months. We have zero.
Coming here on Mother's Day weekend, right? That's the president earlier today hosting and honoring mothers of children killed by illegal immigrants in the country and Gold Star moms as well ahead of Sunday and Mother's Day. The president also touting his success of stopping drugs from coming across the southern border. The flood of fentanyl that's been coming into this country for the last several years, now down by 59%. Think of how many thousands of lives that saves when you drop that number by 59%. Drugs coming in by sea, ever since we started blowing up the drug boats, down 97%. These are the stories nobody really talks about. Dr. Michael Savage, host of Savage Nation, Sunday nights here on Newsmax, joins us now. You know, it is amazing how you can do so much good stuff for a country and get almost no recognition for it. They just look for all the negative and focus on that. That's how the media works.
You're right, and that's why we're here talking about it. We try to set the record straight. But, you know, they weren't really drug boats, according to the left. They were simple fishermen. Yeah. And Trump is an evil man blowing up fishermen and fishing boats. So we see it for what it is. But liberalism being a mental disorder and a lying, crazy, sick mental disorder, they twist everything. You know, be bad enough. Look, I understand a two-party system. You criticize the other party, but not at the expense of reality and sanity itself. So where do we go with people who want to exchange? I saw a show recently on your channel where they're trying to replace the American flag with a pride flag in Seattle for the 250th anniversary. This is how crazy the country has become. And what do you do with crazy people? You can't reason with insanity. It's impossible. And Rob, someone said that hell is a place where there is no reason. The left is dragging us into a place of hell. All we can do is hold the course, know what's right, talk about the things that are right like you're doing, and hope that enough people pick up on it. That's all we can do.
Yeah. No, it's you can't reason with these people any longer. It's no longer Republicans and Democrats, and they both kind of want what's best. We're up against a pretty nasty beast. I want to switch. I want to talk about Iran before I let you go. You sent the president, a concept of an idea that you were thinking to declare victory now, walk away, work out a temporary deal with Iran, and get out. Tell us about what you're thinking here, what he should do.
Well, I received a memo back from a secretary who said we'll print it out for the president. I'm not saying I'm the only one who thought of it. It's pretty basic thinking here. But I think the Iranians want to torpedo Trump during the midterm elections and bring about a Democrat victory if they can, because they know the Democrats will negotiate more favorably with them. They're weaker, okay? So then what are President Trump's options at this time? Rob, I think we can agree that this is a psychological war as much as a war of political science, and the Iranians are trying to figure out how long they can push Trump without getting bombed. Remember, we have to remember they're losing about $450 million a day in oil revenue, so this is considered a sort of suicide bombing on their part, where they cause us damage, but also destroy a part of their own country and their own self. I also saw an article this morning in the New York Times. China sees a giant with a limp as U.S. drains weapons on Iran war. This is an alarming story, but of course we've all seen this coming after all the weapons sent to Ukraine. It's so severely, according to the New York Times, drained American firepower that Chinese analysts are openly questioning Washington's ability to defend Taiwan. And that may undercut President Trump's leverage in his high-stakes summit with China's top leader, Xi, next week. Can I add one additional thing about Iran that I just got from a friend who I think knows stuff? I'm not going to name him, but he said, don't assume that nothing is going on the ground in Iran. Mossad, he writes, wants to overturn the regime, even though IDF is only interested in the enriched uranium. They are also arming the population undercover. The Kurds took the weapons that they were supposed to use against the regime, but they didn't use it. And I think they're going to try and repurpose the weapons from the Kurds to another underground group in Iran. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know if it's true.
That would certainly be interesting. You know, Israel's stake in this is a lot more critical than any other country in the world, including ours. They see this regime as an existential threat. They want to get that out. That doesn't surprise me, but that's very interesting information you're hearing. We'll see if it's true. Got to leave it there. Dr. Savage, good to have you on. Thanks so much.
We're all watching the chess game. And there's one last thing. I hate to keep saying there's a last thing, but you wind me up. You can't stop me. If Trump doesn't get his way, we know his personality. He'll overthrow the chessboard. He'll just throw it on the ground. He'll do something totally irrational.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that either. I think he's going to try and figure out what he get his way and try and do the right thing here. But this is more complicated than than we thought it would be, and that's certainly where do they go from here is a question. Yeah, you got some points there, Dr. Savage. Good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Good to see you. Major blow for Democrats we saw today. Back to the big story from the top. The Virginia Supreme Court striking down their attempt to gerrymander the state in a lawsuit brought by Republicans. The court finding the legislature just cheated the rules, made procedural errors in how they placed the question on the ballot. The question was terrible. The court's decision writes, this constitutional violation incurably taints the resulting referendum vote and nullifies its legal efficacy. Trump, of course, celebrating that on Truth Social earlier. A huge win for the Republican Party and America in Virginia. Dick Morris, advisor to the president, joins us now to talk about it. I mean, that question was like, would you vote for this if you want to defend democracy? It was so ridiculous, and it got flipped.
Do you want to defend your mother?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Trump has gotten such advantage in the last couple of weeks. The media is filled with stories about Trump's downfall, his ratings being underwater, the worst ever. The fact is that Trump is poised, I think, for an enormous midterm victory. And I'm the guy who kept shrieking from the rooftops on this network that Trump would win. And now I'm shrieking again. Number one, you have the lines. You have the court decision in Calais, and then the implementation of that in Mississippi and Tennessee and South Carolina and Louisiana, which says that you cannot gerrymander based on race. The entire Democratic majority or minority in the House, but all the representation is based on racial gerrymandering, and the court has ruled that illegal. And then you have the situation in the Senate, where you have one of the main marginal seats was always Susan Collins, and this guy is Graham Plattner is running against her. He has a Nazi tattoo on his chest. He has a Nazi tattoo on his chest, and he's not going to win. Nobody can get elected with that. And then you have North Carolina, which is nominally a Republican seat, but it could use reinforcing, and it looks like the Republicans will win that, where that girl who was shot, I forgot her name, at the light rail station outside of Charlotte, turns out to have been murdered by an illegal immigrant.
Stabbed, yeah.
Who was released by the governor of North Carolina, and released because of allegedly prison overcrowding and the health issues connected with COVID. But when you look at those two, he's not going to win the Senate. We're going to win the Senate. And with the gerrymandering, we're going to win the House. And the economy is doing great. Job creation way above expectations. Inflation way below. What are they going to run against this guy on? And when the Iraq war is over, which I think it will be soon, what have they got?
Iran, yeah. Good points. It's very optimistic. We'll see if it comes to fruition, Dick. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. All right. Up here after the break, 4-foot-tall beings and other details from today's UFO files release. There's some pretty juicy stuff in here, and that's up next with UFO expert Dr. Stephen Greer.
Hey, I'm Carl Higby from Newsmax. Look, I'm unapologetically pro-American, and honestly, this is the one place that lets me call it how it is. I'm not holding back. I'll give it to you straight every single night.
This little light of mine has been dark for quite some time. Then I let in the light to help see more of the light inside of me.
I needed more from my antidepressant, so my doctor added Caplyta, proven to provide greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone, building on my progress without starting over. Weight gain and reported sexual side effects were not common.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
Trust matters in crypto. Kraken has been building since 2011. Trade over 11,000 U.S. stocks and ETFs, and over 500 crypto assets in one app. Deposit and trade $100 and get $10 in Bitcoin. Kraken. Trade with confidence.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit, total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 five-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
Sensitive mouth and gums? Ever heard of Closest mouthwash? Your dentist and hygienist have. They know Closest is ultra gentle for sensitive mouths with non-burning mouthwashes that freshen breath, improve gum health, and strengthen teeth. Closest, the gentle mouthwash for sensitive mouths.
From senior to childcare to pets and more, the new Care.com makes it easier than ever to find the care you need. And you don't have to hire just anyone. You can find a background-checked caregiver who's the right fit for you. Join now and find care at Care.com.
I am a big believer in super beta prostate. You'll notice less urges to urinate, and you won't be getting up at night for so many bathroom trips. I wouldn't say it if I didn't truly believe it.
Our nurse-led care anticipates needs before they're voiced. From skilled nursing to companion care that renews the soul.
We should know something today. I mean, we're expecting a response from them. We'll see what the response entails. The normalizing of their controlling of international waterways is both illegal and it's just something that's unacceptable.
Marco with an update earlier today on Iran, and the president saying just a bit ago, right before the show, that he expects to hear from the Iranian regime tonight, and if there's no deal on the offer made, he may return to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Rubio saying something similar from Italy earlier today, you just heard. We're expecting a response from the regime. This is a very, though, hardline peace proposal from the president. You know, we laid it out. They want everything nuclear gone. There's going to be no nuclear in the future. It's hard to imagine Iran would go for something as strict as this. U.S. forces firing on 2 Iranian-flagged oil tankers earlier today as well, is the update. CENTCOM releasing this video. Both ships tried to violate the blockade, didn't go too well, finding out the hard way while attempting to pull into an Iranian port on the Gulf of Oman. CENTCOM updating today, there are currently more than 70 tankers that U.S. forces are preventing from entering or leaving Iranian ports, blocking an estimated $13 billion in Iranian oil from making it to the markets. As of today, CENTCOM forces redirected 57 commercial vessels, disabled 4 to prevent those ships from going in and out of Iran. That is the starving of the regime right there. And Vice Admiral Robert Harward is a retired Navy SEAL and former deputy commander of CENTCOM, and he joins us now. And, sir, it's good to have you back on. Expecting an answer tonight. For most of the people that I talk to, they say there's no way that the Iranians are going to accept what Trump has put out there. It's a very tough proposal.
Well, the president's made it very clear he has 2 objectives near and dear to his heart and to the country. End your nuclear weapons program and make sure the Straits of Hormuz are open to free commercial shipping in and out. And so they've been steadfast on that from the very beginning. I'm with you. I doubt the Iranians will acquiesce to that and will return back to conflict sometime in the very near future.
I think the Washington Post, I believe it was this week, was reporting that that Iran can actually survive for a few months. You know, with this level of, with their economy being just decimated by this blockade, no oil going out, they actually have more time than is believed by the administration. Where do you see? How do you view that claim?
Well, that will be up to the Iranian people. They're the ones who are going to suffer at the end of the day. You know, when the energy goes off, when it's tough to buy new, bread at the local markets and stuff like that. That's who will suffer the most. The IRGC, which is the center of gravity for Iran, will make sure they take care of their people and their networks first and foremost. So the internal effects will be very dynamic. And at the end of the day, that's the center of gravity, the regime. Even if they were to capitulate on both the nukes and the straits, they still have missiles, they still have drones, they still have surrogates they're funding. And again, those are the other objectives that result in an lasting, enduring peace, and what the other GCC nations are so focused on. So that undermines those long-term objectives as well. So the blockade, this financial strangulation, is a very powerful strategy.
Yeah, I got 20 seconds left, but what do you think happens here? Where do you think this goes in the next couple of weeks?
I think we'll return to conflict, in fact. I think that's quite obvious. I do not think they'll capitulate, and we'll continue to place the regime at risk. So long term, I don't see how they give up on those terms of the agreement.
Okay. Vice Admiral Robert Harward, thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, 4-foot-tall beings and other very interesting details and images from today's UFO files release. Coming up next with UFO expert Dr. Stephen Greer.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finnerty, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out loud? Let me tell you what Patriot Mobile stands for. They stand for the lives of the unborn. They stand for the Second Amendment and the right to protect yourself and your family. They stand for our veterans and first responders who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today and support a company that doesn't just say they stand for something, but one that stands for the things that matter the most.
Doctors' Preferred Liver Defense is doctor-developed to support your natural detox function with clinically validated, triple-tested key ingredients to energize and renew your liver. Find Liver Defense in the supplement aisle at Walmart. Doctors Preferred. Better science, better results.
Millions of people trust Prevagen for their brain.
I've been taking Prevagen for 4 years now. It's a life changer.
I've been taking Prevagen for 8 years now, and it's still helping me tremendously.
Well, I've been taking Prevagen, I know, for over 10 years.
Why do more people choose Prevagen year after year more than any other brain supplement?
Because it just works.
Prevagen is the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years. Prevagen, for your brain.
There's a power within each of us. When awakened, it can boost performance, enhance learning, even help you work smarter. And you can unlock it with one simple thing: better sleep. Saatva provides that with our luxury mattresses, handcrafted with premium materials in our American factories. We even deliver to any room in your home for free. Saatva, you deserve the comfort of a great night's sleep.
Mom jeans. She passed them down to you. But who passed them to her? Let Ancestry help you piece together your story with a family history membership and detailed DNA results. Save now at Ancestry.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
All right, the president promised to release the UFO files, right? Well, the Pentagon today began that process. The first release, what they call the initial release of new and never-before-seen files on UFOs. Making the images on the screen available to the public on a new government website called war.gov/UFO. Some of the images are more interesting than others. Some of them are stories that are actually really interesting. The Department of War writing on X, the American people can now access the federal government's declassified UAP files instantly. The latest UAP videos, photos, and original source documents from across the entire United States government, all in one place, no clearance required. The president writing, as for my promise to you, the Department of War has released the first tranche of the UFO UAP files to the public for their review and study. Whereas previous administrations have failed to be transparent on this subject, with these new documents and videos that people can decide for themselves what the hell is going on. Have fun and enjoy. And with that, we bring in Dr. Stephen Greer, UFO expert, founder of the Disclosure Project. Sir, good to have you on.
Thank you.
What did you make of today? What was the most interesting thing that you saw out of what was released today that we've seen so far?
Well, the most interesting thing today was the National Press Club event we just concluded that had 4 new whistleblowers in Green Berets exposing vastly more information than was in those files. I would say that the files most interestingly are some of the reports. The images, we frankly have much better ones that we've acquired through the Disclosure Project. This was our 25th anniversary of launching the Global Disclosure Movement today at the National Press Club, which happened 25 years ago. So the president has made good on his promise. We've been providing materials to the administration since November of 2024. And what I know is coming in the future, you got a glimpse of at our National Press Club event, but I know there'll be many more. I think the most interesting information in there are the objects out by the moon, which have been documented. My uncle worked on the lunar project with Northrop Grumman and helped design the lunar module. And we know that
hang on, real quick, just to let people know, there's images from on the moon, from a landing on the moon, when they believe that they might see some kind of UFO, UAP in the skies during a moon landing from 40 years ago or 50 years ago, right?
Correct. And in 1968, we have a top secret whistleblower who has given us information on the mapping of the moon where there were structures found on the moon. Now, this has never been released by the government yet, but I believe there will be many more pretty astounding bits of information that will come out. I think this today was a trial balloon, see how it goes over. I know the president has had some conflicting advice on how far he should go with the disclosure of this information. Some of it is extremely explosive, and as Congressman Burchett and Burleson have said, disturbing.
Yeah. What about, just real quick before I let you go, the 4-foot-tall beings and that story? Was that Roswell? Was that where does that story come out of?
Well, there have been multiple downing of extraterrestrial vehicles with bodies retrieved, and some of them are around that height. There are some that are much taller. One species is over 10 feet. There's one that's only about 2 feet tall. So it's a mistake to believe there's only one species. None of them are hostile, but we have been using advanced directional energy weapons to down them since the mid-1940s.
Yeah. That's amazing stuff. Dr. Stephen Greer, you know, we're going to keep up with you on this because it's always fascinated me, and this is just, hopefully just the start. Good to see you, sir. Thank you so much.
Good to see you. Thank you.
All right. The Justice Department has officially filed to denaturalize 12 alleged terrorist supporters, war criminals, and pedophiles, attempting to strip citizenship from the worst of the worst in this country and teeing them up for deportation, things we should have been doing all along, right? Let's get these people out of this country. In the list of names, you see Babukar Mboob, Salah Ahmed Ahmed. The countries range from Uzbekistan to Kenya to India to Gambia, China, Somalia, all over the world. Some of the worst people in this country that we have naturalized. You can denaturalize these people. The acting Attorney General Todd Blanche saying in a statement, individuals implicated in committing fraud, heinous crimes such as sexual abuse, or expressing support for terrorism should never have been naturalized as citizens. Those who intentionally concealed their criminal histories or misrepresented themselves during the naturalization process will face the fullest extent of the law. Brett Shumate is the Assistant Attorney General at the DOJ's Civil Division. He joins us to talk more about this. Brett, good to have you. Tell us exactly what inspired this. Why haven't we been doing this all along is, I guess, the question throughout all the administrations of the past.
Well, Rob, thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited to announce an unprecedented surge in denaturalization cases that we filed today. The 12 that you identified are really the worst of the worst: terrorists, child rapists, war criminals, fraudsters, really depriving the United States of the most valuable government benefit that we have to offer, and that's U.S. citizenship. And the 12 cases that we filed today is just a down payment on hundreds of cases that you're going to see the Department of Justice file in the next few months. Our partners at the Department of Homeland Security have done a great job identifying cases and referring them to us, and we're going to be filing those cases at a rapid clip this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I love it, but is this a new idea? I mean, it's interesting to me that we haven't always done this because it just makes sense, right? If you have really awful people in your country, why let them stay? Don't punish them and let them stay. Get them out of here,
That's exactly right. We are prioritizing these cases. What happened under the prior administration, during the Biden administration, is that they refused to file these cases. They put up bureaucratic obstacles They made attorneys file paperwork, and they just didn't file cases that were obvious cases where criminals were defrauding the United States. And under the Trump administration, under Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche's leadership, he's directed us to prioritize these cases and get the criminals and the bad actors out of our country. And the first step is taking away their citizenship.
Yeah, absolutely. You know that you would irritate some in the left-wing media. The New York Times writing about this move to strip these 12, saying it could unnerve communities of naturalized American citizens already on edge at President Trump's clampdown on immigration. It could send a message that naturalized citizens have less security than natural-born citizens. The New York Times has found a way to sympathize with pedophiles, terrorist supporters. That's where we're at, I guess.
Of course they have. Law-abiding Americans have no reason to worry. The cases that we filed are cases involving fraudsters who lied to the United States to obtain their citizenship. There's an incredible focus in this administration on fraud. This is government benefit fraud, and the most valuable benefit we have to offer is U.S. citizenship. And of course, the New York Times is identifying and sympathizing with criminals, but not this administration. Under President Trump's leadership, we've secured the border, and now we're focusing on getting people out of our country who have lied and defrauded the United States and have no business maintaining U.S. citizenship.
Yeah, that's well said. Brett Shumate from the DOJ, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. Coming up here after the break, CBS News, a 60 Minutes reporter, stepped pretty hard to the new management and is now in deep. We're going to tell you the story of Sharon Alfonsi up next.
You're told to optimize, to hack. There's always a promise of a better you. But what if you were never meant to be fixed? Your biology knows how to thrive. It just needs a reminder. Armor Colostrum reawakens that brilliance. 400 nutrients, 4 seconds, 1 daily revival. This time, remember what you're made of.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
Relay gives us visibility into not just the amount of money we have, but the work that it's doing. And it gives us something to build toward without so much of the financial anxiety that we had before.
Spring. Things out here have gotten a little too comfortable. It's time to run it. Run it until the grass becomes a lawn. Until the hedges duck for cover. Then run it again. Right now, save $30 on select trimmers. Steel.
He's breathing. Okay, go again.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. Well, there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
Cholesterol support shouldn't stop at diet and exercise. Meet Human Cholesterol Health Daily, the only cholesterol support supplement to combine these unique, clinically studied forms of ingredients for game-changing cholesterol support. Now available at your nearest Walmart.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. 60 Minutes correspondent Sharon Alfonsi lawyering up after learning that she's not going to be getting another contract from CBS. Alfonsi apparently thought she was untouchable at the network, which has just been bought by the Ellisons and has Bari Weiss in there as the new editor-in-chief of CBS News. Weiss postponed Sharon Alfonsi's segment for 60 Minutes titled Inside CCOT. It was just a postponement of it. The segment focused on Tren de Aragua gang members that have been deported from the United States by Trump to El Salvador's CCOT prison. Weiss saying that she simply wanted to vet Alfonsi's, frankly, sympathetic to gang member story a little bit better before putting on the air. Alfonsi was outraged by this and sent an email to many at CBS at the time, saying our story was screened 5 times and cleared both by CBS attorneys and standards and practices. It is factually correct. In my view, pulling it now, after every rigorous internal check has been met, is not an editorial decision. It is a political one. And now she's suing because she's not getting a new contract. What's political, Sharon Alfonsi, is doing a story like this where you're trying to gain sympathy for gang members in the United States that have been sent to another country to do some time in El Salvador, trying to pretend as though these people should be in our country, which is utterly outrageous and aligns with your political viewpoints. And now she's trying to say that about Bari Weiss. Well, you just lost your job. Good luck suing. There's no rule that says CBS has to give you a new contract. That rule does not exist. Next up, Kamala Harris says the American dream is a myth.
So when I talk about the American dream for so many people has become an American myth, I'm talking about the woman I met who shared with me the building in which most of the folks that she knows, immigrants, live. It's like 30% occupancy right now because they know that these buildings are where the raids are happening. How women that live in her community are not going to the hospital to give birth for fear that their baby will be taken from them.
So the American dream is a myth, according to Kamala Harris, and she goes on to give you stories about a bunch of people who aren't Americans and are trying to live in our country. Yeah, it is a myth for people that aren't Americans. It should be a myth for people that aren't Americans, Kamala. Next up, ABC pushing back against FCC Chairman Brendan Carr and the effort to hold the network to the federal rules on equal time. ABC's fighting this. They say that the government forcing ABC to have Republicans on is against its First Amendment rights. The original filing stemmed from Carr's investigation of The View, featuring U.S. Senate candidate James Tallarico, the Mormon robot, not giving equal airtime to other candidates as well. The View only has Democrats on their shows. The network arguing the commission has taken no action over the last 2 decades to modify or overturn the declaratory ruling, and there is no basis for doing so now. So yes, ABC, a federally regulated network, is saying we don't want to have Republicans on and we will fight you in court. That's something. And finally, economic data from the Committee to Unleash Prosperity show an incredible shift in this country. Nearly $2 trillion leaving blue states for red states in just the last decade. New York has the worst, losing $660 billion between 2012 and 2023. California losing $503 billion. All of this makes it very obvious. Florida has gained $1.3 trillion. And yet these socialists and communists that are destroying these big blue cities won't hear any of it. You cannot inject that into their brains. They think it's great when all of these successful people leave their state. It's amazing. The president with a message to the Pope via Marco. Up next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream to target neuropathy symptoms.
The stabbing, burning pain in your feet is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream, the only thing that works for my diabetic neuropathy.
Available in foot care and diabetic aisles.
AI company Palantir makes critical decisions for governments around the world. In 2019, Palantir bought $50 million in gold in case of black swan events. Not surprising what followed. In 2020, a pandemic shut down the global economy. And in 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. In 2023, we had a regional banking collapse. And in 2026, could a 1929-style market crash be the final straw? Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 9 years in a row. Home of the no-fee-for-life IRA. Patriot Gold Group is Patriots Protecting Patriots. Call now, 888-528-4290.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
To the victor go the spoils!
When Caesar Slots gives you a getaway, they go all the way. 2 tickets to a luxury Caribbean cruise. Download Caesar Slots for free now and get a chance to win a luxury cruise. Flights included. New winner every week.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis? With fewer symptoms from moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, where would you go? Imagine being 1,000,000 miles away. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. And for adults with active psoriatic arthritis, Tremfya goes beyond the skin. Less joint pain, stiffness, and swelling is possible. And Tremfya even reduced fatigue. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being 1,000,000 miles away. Ask your doctor about Tremfya.
And finally tonight, Marco Rubio meeting with the Pope yesterday at the Vatican. The new Pope, of course, has been quite critical of the Trump and Rubio administration, especially on immigration. He's an open border Pope, also on Iran as well. The president speaking to reporters, revealing the message that he sent along with Marco.
I just said, tell the Pope very nicely, very respectfully, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So when he comes to their defense, also tell the Pope that Iran killed 42,000 innocent protesters who didn't have guns, who didn't have weapons. Tell that to the Pope.
And well said there. And also, if the Vatican can have borders, so can we. Finnerty's up next.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.